I'll be calling you a radical, so more empirical data that scientists, I am the scientist. Fucking, the only one that really fucking has done the work. As a scientist, you have to have field work. You have to have observational work. You know, coincidence don't fucking get it. Regurgitate opinion, copy and paste PhDs. And when you're going to fucking come out of denial and start realizing that university professors, people that work for NOAA, people that work for the EPA are not scientists. They're card-carrying, bootlicking fucking imperialist bootlickers. The nuclear energy crime center bootlickers. So, more empirical data is I've been on this since day one. I've tracked fucking salmon numbers up and down these fucking Pacific fucking rivers like no other every day. We're going on 5,000 days since Fukushima happened. Now, this is empirical data, just like my tide pool, dead tide pools at your feet. Now, I get published in a journal. It's being outed over and over that everything published in fucking journals is fraud. Cost so many people life, from fucking the AMA, fucking to Harvard, to Yale, to fucking Stanford. I mean, this is what you have to do. You have to go rogue. I put it on YouTube. There it is, for God and everybody to see. I mean, the empirical data, you know, published, because we know it's all captured. Hello. Being proven over and over and over. So let's get right to this. So, the Kenai, I had a hunch this year was, and well, not a hunch, I know. So, the Kenai, such an important river when it comes to the health of the Pacific Ocean, because that's the big, hallowed, healthy. First came the god of Chinook, the big beast, the giant Chinook. So, they started to crash the Chinook not till 2016. Why? They go to sea 5 years. This is important. We don't catch dead tide pools, well, Kevin Blanch does. And they're going to tell you, yep, Kevin Blanch was right. The radical crash, they're telling you 10 years after the fact, after I did all the fucking, in real time, historic tide pools. I was going to be there today, because we got pretty low tides today, but I'm going to have to wait till the next moon cycle, you know, the 18th, 19th, 20th, health issues. You know, I'm dealing with high blood pressure. I'm getting a little better. Anyway, my doctor told me, no way. We got to get this under control, you know, because of the pacemaker and the 2 open heart surgery. So, but I'll be heading out soon. I'm going. So, they come out and, yeah, 97% acute radical collapse on the tide pools in 2012. What caused it? Global warming, they're saying. So, okay, I go back to them. I said, so global warming started in 2012, because this is an acute outlier. This is radical. This is an outlier. So we know global warming's been going like this. And nuclear energy is very much responsible for global warming. Very much. I got a great idea. Let's boil all the Earth's water over and over to cool down the Earth. Up is down, black is white. Fucking boiling the Earth's water over and over and over heats up the fucking thing. And nuclear meltdowns are hot. So, the empirical data, I don't do opinion. Tide pools collapse 2012. Waste seas, I'm still waiting for someone to tell me what caused waste seas. Oh, global warming. No, that doesn't get it. That fucking thing, coincidence doesn't get it. Scientists are mystified, they're baffled, they're stumped, they're curious, they're wrong. That's all we've heard. That doesn't get it in science. Does not get it. So, global warming, that doesn't cut it. It's a cop-out. Now, global warming is very real. We know this, but it's been going like this for a long time. Since the industrialization of this country, the auto industry tore out all the fucking streetcars, the cable cars, and the auto industry, and fucking these industries went mad. The industrialized American. The nuclear industry. So it's been like this. In 2012, it went like this. Well, something caused that. So we start to, you know, study empirical data from the beginning. Kevin Blanch, these are full-blown out meltdowns. This is an energy pushed into the fucking Pacific Ocean, unforeseen in the history of mankind, which I named Fuktonium. It's going to fucking boil the plankton, and it's going to break the fucking chain. I says the first thing will fuck starbase. It's going to cause a heat dome over the western United States. And the guy that named it, the great Western North America heat dome, before it even happened, just the greatest 12. It's going to get into the trees. This energy, pine trees especially, because pine trees hold energy from the sun. The sun can give you cancer from 93 million miles away. It's going to get too much of this energy is going to go in. It's going to store it. And it's going to fucking cause these spontaneous... I predicted these crazy fucking fires. And so to a fine science, play back the tape, you're on. It's going to wipe out the tide pool first. Then it will start a chain reaction. Big fish eat little fish. I remember standing at PB with Lisa, Winston's girlfriend. And I'm like, what are you doing? Standing at the point there. Kumiya Point there. And I says, I'm waiting. I'm starting to look for... I'm thinking about this. I think it's time that we're going to see the well epic wash-up collapse on the grays and the humpbacks. 2014, 2015. Just that year alone, we counted 311. Now, I like how NOAA calls it an unusual mortality event and tries to... So, this is important because in San Francisco Bay, it's being reported now that gray whales are swimming around there, breaking off their patterns. Now, gray whales go clear up north through the Bering Sea, the long migration, 10,000. They use the California current. They go to Mexico, the birthing grounds. They come back. By now, it's over. They're back in, the Bering Sea, way, way, way north, near the Kenai. How come they're still in San Francisco Bay swimming around? And of course, scientists are mystified. They're baffled because they're inebriated. They're starving to death. They're breaking off their pattern trying to find plankton. They're plankton feeders. Gray whales and humpbacks are both. Now, we know the 75 biologists come out and agreed with Kevin Blanch finally, after all the years after the fact, and says, look, right, this great well collapse, which is epic, which they say 30 to 50% of all humpbacks fucking collapse. Now, remember, humpbacks were moved off the endangered list right before Fukushima because they were having a major comeback. Now, remember, tide pools were incredibly healthy. I cannot overstate how healthy the Pacific Ocean was March 10th, 2011. There's tide pool videos all over out there. Fuck, those before and after on egghead Upper California purple urchins of my... I mean, it's so dramatic. And somebody says, well, you need to do... Well, there's plenty out there. Get to work, you video mixers. I can't do all the work. I mean, how much of my videos are out there? You have at historic low tides. Incredible. So they agreed. This acute collapse happened in 2012. Well, why did it happen? In conclusion, they say global warming. I'm like, oh, God, here we go. Okay. Global warming, that's right. But what accelerated it then? Something accelerated it in 2011. We call that an outlier in science. We have enough data. The salmon are the smoking gun. Dead tide pools at your feet, Edie. It's a cult. The heat bubble of the Western Eye, all 2012, all 2011, all 2012. Longevity started to head south in North America in lifespans. When? 2011, 2012. All this data points exactly right to the same place, 2011, 20. So we count every salmon. Now, this is so historic and so important. And, I know it's a broken record, but it's so empirical. Kevin, I am the scientist. Probably the greatest scientist, since Semmelweis. I did all the fucking work. Now, the empirical data, the Kenai, the Chinook. Last year was so fucking horrific, they started to collapse in 2016. Just like, I remember people laughing at me. I was out on the sea. I saw these record fucking returns. I says, no, steelhead, go to sea 1 to 2 years. The first time they come back, they're called a half pounder. They started to collapse immediately in 2012. The Chinook were thriving. Everybody's laughing at me. 2011, 2012, 13, 14. I mean, record fucking numbers on the Kenai and the Nooshak. The Fraser in British Columbia. The mighty, mighty beast Columbia fucking river, which is, the biggest drainage on the entire Pacific. It's fucking massive. Takes most of fucking Western Canada, all that thing. That fucking beast. Record returns. Army Corps engineers are doing videos. Hey, look at us, look at us. And it blows my mind how all the bootlickers, including the Army engineers, and everybody's gone along with this. Don't say the F word. Fuck the nuclear energy crime scenes getting their golden fucking half cuffs, lock, stock, fucking barrel. So, rank and file, I says, well, you believe me when they collapse in 2016. Why 2016? Because they go to sea on average of 5 years. We're talking 4 million on the fucking Columbia, counting the fucking tribal takeout and the retail fish takeout. That number's so low. We're at 130,000 right fucking now. And just like I said, 2016, off a cliff. The Kenai last year was so radical and started to collapse off fucking 95%, had 1,975 for the day. No. Wow. For the week. No. For the month, that's pretty low for the month. No. No. For the year, the spring runs over June 30th. For the fucking year. Now, their answers to been sequester, kettle. The American populace can't handle the truth. They don't want the fucking truth. I mean, if Fukushima hasn't exposed who runs the fucking world, who runs the media, who runs academia, who runs all of it, the nuclear energy crime syndicate are the fucking top of the pyramid. The imperialists. I mean, it's unbelievable. They got hold of everything. Politics, academia, media, even fucking YouTube, you know? So, I'm like, let's hopefully it can't be worse than last year. Oh, it was worse than last year. It's over. 1,365. So we took another 30%. I mean, we're on the verge of extinction. So this is a catastrophe. And my empirical data. Now, what the fuck am I supposed to do? You know, stay in the academia circle and put some golden handcuffs on and copy and paste and fucking grandstand and go around, get fucking, you know, staying in hotel rooms and fucking hobnobbing around, fucking flying around the world, the comfortability. That's not a scientist. The scientist does field work, does observational fucking work. First, they hypothesize. These are full-blown out nuclear meltdowns. This is an energy never happened at Chernobyl. That was one fucking reactor, the 700,000 men entombed, including a mining operation underneath it. And as horrible as it was, this was probably four fucking full-core meltdowns and 8 spent fuel pools blown to fucking hell. Never happened in the history of mankind. Never happened at Chalk River. Never happened at fucking Santa Susana in L.A. Never happened at Idaho National Lab. Never happened at 3 Mile Island, fucking in Pennsylvania. Never fucking happened at Pathfinder in South Dakota. Never even happened at Chernobyl. You know, never even happened at Mayak. You know, oh, it happened. This is the mother of all ecological catastrophes. Now, everything that came after, I can't even talk about where the demic came from. But we'll stay with this empirical fucking data. It's unarguable science. You didn't have to agree with me. The more credible my work becomes, the more they flee. I mean, very widely reported sea stars down 97, 98, 98%. Tide pools down, fuck, I did it as it happened. Well, population, radical fucking collapse in the grays. I mean, they're hanging around San Francisco, but they're fucking starving to death. Unusual health. Look it up. Look it up, the fucking data. The 75 biologists said, yeah, it was a starvation event. I mean, people were laughing at me when I was calling it starvation. Purple flash. 4th of July. So, the number's up. It's done. And I had a hunch. Well, I knew. I'm like, this is going to be ugly. I've tracked it every day, the entire run. Every fucking day. I've tracked it. And it's a catastrophe. I mean, 13, and this is by number, not, fuck, the Rogue ended up with 6,300 for the year, I think. I mean, a couple years ago, they forecasted 400,000. Fuck, the Jedediah Smith and the Klamath are right next to each other. The Klamath has dams, the Jedediah Smith does not. They're both down 98, 99% just since 2016 in the Chinook. The fuck is still head down 98, 98% since 2011. It's empirical data they're dying to see. In symphony with the tide pool work, Kevin Blanch, me, oh mine, Nobel Prize, and I get no funding. My funding's completely fucking dried up. I don't know how I even fucking do this. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. Fuck, how you like this new soup can? It's concrete. Perfect, right? I'm not abstract. I remember Jerry Rice talking, probably the greatest NFL player there ever was, one of them. Come from that tiny school. I believe he grew up in Mississippi. My dad was a bricklayer. We were so poor he didn't even have scaffolding. So, you know, they would use ladders or whatever we could find. And we would throw the bricks back and forth, toss them. That's how I got those soft hands. You know, I was a plasterer for all those years. I can relate. And so, it's concrete. I mean, this is the greatest ecological. Pacific Ocean dies, stock market makes all-time highs. It's unfucking believable. It's an important video. The Kenai is so important. I mean, it's such a barometer of the Pacific Ocean. Such an important fucking. And the Chinook are so important of a fucking animal. Just like the gray whales are sacred. They're hallowed. So are the humpbacks. You know, if you ever seen, I saw a washed up dead blue. You ever seen a blue whale? In the real, they look like a fucking dinosaur. Because they are. They're like a humpback crab. I mean, horseshoe. I mean, horseshoe crabs are what, 440 million years old, that species. Like dragonflies. I mean, they bury themselves in the mud, but such a fucking catastrophe, you know. After the boys of summer gone. It's a hit. Try this. I want you to try this. I had my grands, they're great athletes. I had them. Okay, come on. They're like, holy shit. And I'm telling you, you ever see them play baseball? You ever see them play soccer? They blow my mind. They're that good. And I'm like, come on. Like, whoa. I can even smell it. I found out finally on the great Ted Williams. I did all that work at San Diego in front of his house. These videos are so important. I did that video a long time ago in front of his house. They got to tear it down and fighting, trying to save it. You know, Ted Williams used to say when he's swinging, he could actually smell the burn. You know, he got so disrespected in San Diego. Well, in Boston, too. You know, his mother, Savior, you know, she was called the Angel of Tijuana. People don't know that she was Mexican. What a gem. So he kind of resented her because all he did was charity work her whole life. He says sometimes she didn't think that she spent enough with him. He'd make him do charity work. She gave herself away 24/7. That beautiful house. Kid finally commented. Says, hey, I live over there. I found this video. I was just going to tell you. Somebody bought it and gutted it and turned it into this ugly fucking thing. It doesn't even look anything like. I'm like, thank you, man. It's a powerful genre. Fucking, whether it has, you know, 115,000 views or fucking 89 views, it doesn't fucking matter. It's in the library. It's people that are searching can come in and fucking find it. You know, the art of community. Kevin Blanch, this is the most, dead pie pool jumping, Bob Beam Blanch. You know, I can quote numbers up and down every one of these rivers. The Rogue, the Deschutes, the Willamette, the fucking, you know, fuck Fraser's even worse. I think it's 99%. But the starving to death wells, and here they come out and says the unusual mortality event's over. They're full of shit. It's not over. You know, we're seeing wells wash up all the fucking time. You know, it's a starvation event that's going on in the ocean. Gray well. I mean, fuck this winter when I was in PB and, you know, I misquote and I said a juvenile humpback, but I play back the tape. I'm like, it's out there. It's going to wash up dead. It's going to wash up dead. It's going to wash up. I mean, I predict all this. You know, I'm always watching. I'm always doing the fucking work. I put in so many hours a week, it'll blow your fucking mind. 7 days a week. I mean, I'm all over all of this. Like, you know, fuck, I started out using that little flip camera. Fucking, broke a couple of those. Then I used those great bloggies for all those years. I could conceal them. pointed up, you know. Then I never had a hard drive, and then the iPad came around, you know, and I had used God, that one iPad. I wore that fucker out so hard, and then the other one, Deb, bought me that fucking iPad. The neurosurgeon here, used to do all that work out at Energy Solutions, bringing the waste here. I used it for years, but you know, I just have to sit out in front of a Starbucks, a library, fucking early in the morning, man. That what are you doing? I remember the cop pulling up Castroville. He says, "What the fuck are you doing?" I went over. I said, "Come here." Fuck, I've been out at tide pool and showing the tide pools, and he says, "I used to watch your videos." He told me, and I says, "Yeah, I'm standing right in front of the doorway. The library's not open, so I can get some Wi-Fi on it. I mean, that's how you have to use it." And fuck, it used to take hours sometimes in some of those videos. I'd be sitting out by, find a Starbucks, fucking stand out in front of it. The only place I could grab some Wi-Fi. You know, I'm walking the fucking coastal, any place I could find. Fuck, it was so much work, and I was in critical condition, full of cancer. Fucking sicker than fuck. No money, and thank you everybody who did support this fucking work along the fucking way, but it's not over. You know, I mean, it blows my mind everybody's quit me, and I don't know where they've moved on. But I don't know what the fuck. You violated yet? You violated? This is the most important PhD in fucking history. I gotta have fucking funding. You know, the slander they used, that technique was pretty effective. The internet kettling, you know, the internet kettling really didn't start till 2018, 2019. I look back at it, though 2019, 18, they started to kettle my work. You know, nothing could get out. Can't find me. That's why the flipping the can, hitting the fucking bat, doing all this dynamic, incredible visual genre to hold retention. Because I knew YouTube worked on retention. I was so good at what I did, you know, the art of communications, as the scientist, I knew that I had to capture audiences. I knew the intensity, the fuck, the radical, the controversial fucking way the vision would hold people. I know this pension span. The average YouTube videos fucking watch like fucking 4 or 5%. At one time, YouTube came to me and says, your retention is the top, not 10%, not 1%, one of the top 10 retention YouTube sites in the world. Fuck, used to go Fukushima nuclear meltdowns, salmon collapse, fucking all this different subject matter, whales, blah, blah, starvation, the fires, blah, blah. On the side of the thing, 19 of 20, there I would be. Who can do that? Look who I'm competing with. Reuters, CNN, fucking the big fucking imperialist fucking monsters with all their money. You know, and I'm kicking their ass. Till 2018, 2019, net neutrality, they fucking got it through, they changed it, and then they changed the whole structure on your kettle. Not the great, but it's in the library. You know, it's there. You know, it's like a good research library. I mean, it's like when I was young doing undergraduate work or even postgraduate work. You know, when I was a young guy, you'd go dig through. Used to have the best resource library. We were saying it was so fucking incredible. These incredible fucking professors that taught me. I mean, it was unbelievable. We had an incredible fucking biology department. And, you know, people put stuff in the library and you'd go search and dig in that library physically. Now it's just at the tip of the fingers. Now, granted, it's hard to filter through all the shit. I get that. But I post as much data as I can inside my fucking descriptions. There's all kinds of fucking empirical data there. My tide pool videos alone, I mean, you can fucking go right through them. I mean, there's hundreds. Well, I think there's 340 just in the one playlist alone. Historic low tides up and down the coast of California, fucking some in Oregon, fucking it really fucking. I mean, I caught some of the lowest tides in fucking 100 years, up and down all over. You know how hard I don't think people have a clue how hard it is to do what I did. Number one, you have to understand when the tide pool is. They have to be at daylight hours. Then you have to go across. You can't wade through. You're not supposed to wade through tide. It's against the law. You go across those tide pools so quickly with that iPod. Fuck, it's so slick. It's so dangerous. I cracked my back of head. I cracked my hand. Go try it. Ask McCormick. He fell. You know, it's fucking dangerous as fuck. I remember being at PB and one of the lifeguards was like, Kevin, I got to tell you, I looked all the way across the PB point and watched you out there for about fucking an hour and a half. I never seen anything like that in my life. I never seen anybody glide across. You look like a fucking bird popping across out there, just going. I mean, he says it was poetry. He says, I was telling my wife about it. He says, I Had my son come over and watch it. He says, it was amazing. When I was standing there, he says, can I buy you a beer? Can I do anything for you? Yeah, sure. You know, and we went up to Nick's and had some mac and cheese and a fucking beer and visited. It was fucking, really a fucking great deal. I've had so many wonderful experiences like that up and down the shit I've seen, the animals I've seen. Oh, fuck. I remember the fucking starving to death fucking sea lion fucking nipping at my fucking pants trying to eat fucking rocks. You know, I've seen somebody, I mean, walk up on a fucking elephant seal, a male, during May season. Go, go. You know, remember a lot of times when I'm walking out on the coast, I'm dying of cancer, there was no place. I was using them little flip cameras, fucking whatever I had. I'd have to wait to get back to a hard drive, you know, days later. You know, the iPad, when Wi-Fi came around, helped me out so much. It's like now you can just do it with your phone. You stand right and stuff. Not then. Not fucking 2011, 2012. And it's unarguable. My work is so historic. This is the greatest ecological, this is the greatest outlier in human history. And everybody's finally agreeing with me all these years. 2012? I mean, I used to saw concrete. I saw that. You know, that's a core drill. Probably a sample. I used to saw concrete. It's fucking cool as fuck. Just like a soup can, right? Fuck, it's perfect. I can't believe I found it. Just walking along, it was laying in the parking lot. Fucking. I always tell the Rashid Shaheed's people at Weaver State, why he's got the greatest hands I ever saw in the NFL. He never drops a pass. You watch Kevin Blanch flip that soup can for all the... When I was fucking intensely fighting cancer, when it looked like I was going to die just from the leukemia, before the open heart surgeries twice, I never missed it once. I didn't miss it once in like 6, 7 years. It's like we were talking, I didn't have a hamburger for 7 fucking years. I mean, the cells, I mean, I sucked. I mean, I look back how intense that fight was. Staying alive, given 2 months to live, doing all this fucking work, flying all over the world, sleeping in a sleeping bag, fucking keynote speaker on the San Onofre fucking shutdown. I mean, it's so historic. You can ask fucking all these people in San Diego, nobody will help me out. You know, Lori used to help me out, and then she went away. I don't know what the fuck happened to her, you know. Peter used to have, I don't know what the fuck happened there. You know, different people in San Diego. Rachel, fucking, she tries here and there. I mean, Jules in the Central Coast, you know. There's a bunch of people in San Francisco used to pick me up and help me, and they just, well, it's the attention spans here. I remember I'd be the keynote speaker in those fucking hearings, and then these people are staying in the Omni, $400 a night, all over in these exclusive places. I'm always the keynote speaker on every. Without Kevin Blanch, no way Santa Fe ever shuts down. And then I take my sleep and I sleep on the beach in a fucking sleep bag while I'm fucking in critical condition, full of AML leukemia. That's a 1% survival bracelet, by the way. The fact that I go into the bone marrow transplant center on 11/11, and the fact that I survived without a fucking transplant, that's a 1% survival bracelet. Fucking AML de novo with a marker of 44, there's no chance. And the fact that I did all this work, why? Was it failed fucking heart? I've had open heart surgery twice. I have a pacemaker in the last 5 years. So, I mean, my gallbladder, I mean, brutal, intense. I think about it. I was thinking about it today. Holy fuck. It's staggering. Yet, everybody ignores my work. They got butt hurt. They went on their way. Fucking Trumpism versus fucking Obamachism. Fucking bullshit. I can't stand. I mean, they covered up Fukushima, both of them, didn't they? Just like Biden. What's the fucking difference? Because nothing else matters. So, try it. My grandsons are like 2011. They're born 2011. That month, they're a week apart. That's fucking unbelievable. I says, well, they were born right after Fukushima happened. Their mother's nursed. You know, we know what synergizes inside mammals. They're Fuktonian babies. They are fucking blow my mind. You know, there's so many coincidences. They're not coincidence. Everything's 2011, 2012. You know, the cancer fucking epidemic, the radical outbreak. You know, sit here my whole life. Grew up, born and raised here, and San Diego on the marsh, whatever. So fucking beautiful here. The Great Salt Lake's right there. How about my work on the Great Salt Lake? How about my work in Vienna at the IAEA fucking, you know? In New York City going at the meeting. At the Peace Vigil in fucking D.C. I mean, So much incredible fucking work. And no funding. Yet, I mean, this cherry pick fucking activism shit. I'm a real scientist. So few birds out here, it's fucking scary. It blows my mind, actually. So, this number is so radical low on the Kenai. No tribal takeout, no gill netting, no dip netting, no fishing, retail, fucking commercial, no nothing. Zero. It's completely shut down. Zero. None all year. And the fact that they only have 1,365 for the entire fucking spring run, which is 6 months of the year, is fucking. If that doesn't scare the fuck out of people, I don't know what the fuck does. Pacific Ocean dies. Talking. I mean, holy fuck. In symphony with the fucking gray whale collapse. In symphony with the humpback collapse. How about the starving fucking mirrors? All my work on that. Fuck, remember at Pismo? They're all laying dead there. People playing fucking volleyball on them. You know, as it happened, the Great Starvation event. Fucking the plankton crashed. And now we have all the empirical data. Kevin Blanch's data is being verified every fucking day. Yet me, oh my, no, but fuck, I don't get nothing. I get slandered. I get attacked. No, fuck, I think about it. I was uninsured when I got fucking cancer. Remember I had everybody buying all that Tesla and Apple stock? Remember that? Fuck, play back the tape. My grandson, who's 13 years old now, interested in the stock market, of course. I'm like, that's what I did back then. And he's like, my mom showed me your portfolio when you got sick. He says, I did the work on it. In fact, I showed it to my teacher. He says, you know how many, you'd be worth hundreds of millions. You know, I had $1 million worth of fucking Tesla and Apple stock. Play back the tape and beg people to fucking buy it all over. You know, made a lot of people a lot of fucking money. But I was uninsured. The university could have paid for it, but I'd been blackballed for taking on the nuclear industry. You know, they are they're the water school business. Come on. Stand up to this beast. Fucking either put your golden handcuffs on or go rogue like Kevin Blanch. And you go rogue like that, you got to fucking rely on maybe some people giving you some funding. Yeah, I basically have two people that fund me over the last couple of years. Two in NoCal. That right there where they get it, they understand it. They live on the fucking bay. They live right there. No, I mean, I don't understand how people are just ignoring this. See, no nuclear speak to empirical, incredible. This is the greatest outlier in human history. So we know the outlier was in 2011. We know unarguably, factually, it was in 2011. We know that. So we got to get to work. We know something crazy fucking happened in the Pacific Ocean 2011. It's absolutely unarguable. Heat dome over the western United States 2011, 2012. Greatest drought 1,200 years. The fires. I predicted all them, which I said spontaneous, this energy unforeseen. You go talk to a fire marshal in fucking NoCal, Oregon. You know my buddy, never caught a paper fish. Remember him doing those videos, whatever? That video that I put up, he sent to me when the fire, you know, he burned to death. How about the fires in fucking Idaho? All my work at Idaho National Lab. Huh. How about just fucking getting back from Cameron, Wyoming, fucking boots on the fucking ground right there, fucking at the Bill Gates thing. But some woman will put up some BS about Bill Gates' video and get 1 million views. Mine gets 112. Huh. Fucking unbelievable. People don't want the truth. They can't. I mean, they're real scientists, but at least it's in the fucking library. You know? I don't know. But I studied Semmelweis when I was young. I studied Spanish flu when I was young with the legendary fucking biology professor. He used to make us walk through the cemetery and say, "Killed by the beast," and record it and bring. I mean, fuck, what a fucking class that was for a year. Unbelievable, you know, World War I area, and he really felt like it was biological weapon testing, and he was a genius. Spent all that time in the research library learning how to use one, learning what an outlier was, learning fucking about Krakatoa, learning about all these radical, crazy fucking events scientifically. I knew what I was doing from the beginning. And then my art background, fucking holding retention. I did a BIS. I was a finance art. I look back on it. Fuck, I chose the right things at a public university, a fucking powerhouse. You know, and my credentials are so fucking long, and then they blackballed you for taking on the nuclear industry. Just the #1 school of business in the fucking country. That's all. Not Harvard, not Yale, yeah. Now they're last. What the fuck am I supposed to do? No, honestly, what was I supposed to do? Fukushima happened, I knew right then. I knew. I used to do the due diligence on these Mach 1, Mach 2. You're talking construction building. I knew it. I was in the Energy Solutions fucking dump site that day protesting the Italian waste coming in here. Mike Lee was sneaking in. And then Mike Lee's got the nerve to tell me my dad was a downwinder. I'll get right back. And then he lies to my face. All these politicians. I'm very cordial with all these people. I know how to be. My diplomacy will blow your mind. You know, I use the intent, the fuck this style to hold retention so people could find me. My toothpaste got out. You know, the Pandoras. Well, I flipped that behind my back and shattered it with my axe on my fucking back. The point is, I did it so organic, and I know it's rough cut, and it's really rough and hard to wash, but I mean, you can turn down the sound. But that's the way it has to be. It has to be organic, grassroots, fucking uncropped, unchopped. It has to be. I knew that from the beginning. I knew that, and that's what I've done, and that's what it is. We're just talking fucking well over 12,000 fucking videos on this subject. Any fuck thing you can cover. And they're fucking to cuddle me. You know, I appreciate everybody that has funded this, and these people used to pick me up. I used to fly all over the world, not even blind. One person would always show up like an angel. One. But there was always one. All my work on the shutdown of San Onofre, the fucking Diablo Canyon, my SMR work, fuck, I go on and on. I'm the world's foremost expert on nuclearism. Try me, bar none. And their answer is to blackball me. I studied Semmelweis. Semmelweis was germ theory, wash his hands. He was from Budapest. He was the doctor in Vienna. And he hypothesized, he'd read papers before. It was Italian germ theory, atom theory. He was schooled in it. Had a good education, and he became a doctor, a good doctor. He delivered babies. And he felt that maybe there really was these germs in there, and he wanted to prove it. He felt like if doctors wash their hands in childbirth, will have proven probably, because there's so many women dying in childbirth. So he decided to do it. He required his doctors to wash their hands. He ran the whole clinic, the whole show. 10 years. He increased mortality by fucking, over 10 times. He proved it, unarguably proved it. And he was still, I feel like him. And no one would believe him. No one would believe, to the point it drove him fucking insane. He would stand on the steps right there in Vienna where I stood, right there, and did all that fucking great work, and, you know, in Austria, and they fucking threw him in a rubber room and beat him to death. Just the greatest fucking scientist in history. You know, and then comes along Albert Einstein, who, I was so schooled in Einstein by the time I was a little kid. I was fascinated with him. You know, and they've got his whole legacy so twisted. He was such an anti-nuclear, such a peace activist, such a fucking hell of a way to boil water, hell of a way to boil a planet. I knew what he said. I knew that he said if we ever do have a real full-blown out fucking meltdown, which Chernobyl 708,000 entombed it as bad as it was, and it was horrible, and it killed a lot of people. You know, my work at the IEA, fucking think about that. He says, if we ever get that, it's going to fucking, that cheetah's going to get out of the bottle. It's going to change everything. It's going to mutate and change every piece of biology on the fucking planet. Well, that's exactly what he also said it was going to cause viruses and mutations. Will humans adapt? You know, he's first asked, you know, the animals, whatever, talking about that. And he says, well, humans are an animal. Will they adapt? Remember what he said? Yeah, in 50 generations. I really feel since COVID happened that it changed the way all of us think. I think it, to me, time seems like it races forward so much faster now since COVID. It's run through us all of us, you know, multiple times. It's changed us all. I mean, just like fucking Albert Einstein said, we can't even discuss where it came from. Well, you know, nuclear meltdowns, I said, first you hypothesize the knowledge, then you do your field work, then you defend the work. If you were right, you were right. If you're wrong, so what? You're wrong. They won't even let you hypothesize. And, you know, I hypothesize, these are full-blown now. They never fucking happened before. This fucking, which I named plutonium, would be the greatest heat source in the history of mankind. Push them, it's going to break the fucking chain. It's going to cause a heat dome over there. Tide pools will go first. The starfish will go fucking first. But The salmon we will know in 2016 because of the fucking Chinook. The fires, I predicted every single fucking bit of Blanch on Balcom. Then I have to defend my work against this tsunami of fucking ignorance. It's unbelievable. And then it becomes the knowledge, and you get credit. I've done all that, except I don't get no credit. Well, I mean, it's just YouTube. It's just the internet. It's just fire. It's just the will. It's the most powerful genre in fucking human history, bar none. So, you know, they're still mystified. They're still curious. They're still alarmed to this day. Long video. I didn't intend to be that long, but it has to be done. So the Grays swimming in San Francisco Bay in July. They're in the bay. They're searching for food. You know, the anchovy and sardine fucking collapse. I mean, all of it. I mean, this is the greatest ecological catastrophe. And so we know there was something radical happened in 2011. So we have to start searching. We know that. It's unarguable. The data's unarguable fucking now. What was it? Did a nug Krakatoa form and a giant fucking volcano coat the fucking earth? Look, we got 2 bats. Finally. Got a couple bats. No. We know that didn't happen. Did a meteor hit the earth, the big one? Hit the Pacific Ocean? No. What the fuck happened? Something acute, radical happened. It's called an outlier in science. It's the greatest outlier in human history. At least since fucking Krakatoa. I think it's bigger than that because it doesn't go away. Oh, 3 full core fucking meltdowns. Most likely at least 4. Fucking 8 spent fuel pools, including Fox fuel. Jet stream moves left to right. Breaking news. Breaking news, fish swim. Fuck, we're the downwinders. We took the direct hit right here. We know factually now that 6,500 miles right, this crow flies, is Fukushima, Japan. I'm on the same latitude. I was working right there. Fuck, we know for a fact that we had a major radical fucking acute leukemia breakout in 2011 here. We know now that the mapping shows that it fucking hit right here on the wall. I was working right there on the Wasatch. Outside. It hit me like a truck in 2011. Talk about change my fucking life. I mean, my God. When a good doctor looks you right in the eyes and says you got 2 months to live, get your affairs in order, and I have little grandchildren, I have all kinds of fucking people. It's so devastating. I'm inside a fucking bone marrow transplant. I got no pigment in my eyes. I weigh 119 pounds. Blisters on my fucking tongues. Fucking going in and out of a fucking coma. And people are just slandering me all over the internet. Fucking my chest split open from here to here. I'm so scarred up. Fucking open heart surgery twice. My gallbladder lost. So wiped out all my money. Then people have the nerve, felonies in all 50 states, to slander me all over the internet. Deal with that one. Try that one. And then old Heinz Burrow, who just passed away, told me, he says, Kevin, you still taking fighting? You're still doing your PhD fighting? Yeah, the nuclear. Fuck. I used to watch along. How do you keep your sanity? What makes you think I do? I mean, Dr. Burroughs all those years, he just died. Fucking 99. Kevin, you got to get a book out on this. All of this. I says, yeah, I'm working on it. He says, you told me that 35 fucking years ago. Like Colette says, if Kevin Blanch wrote a book, it'd be 10 feet thick. The fight goes on. I mean, I just went up to Cameron and did that fucking work. You know, I'm going to get back. I'm on this every day. You know, I'll be back on the tide pools. I'm going to leave on the 18th, July the 18th. You know, I'm going to spend a while. Probably hit Monterey, work up and down. I'm going to get this work done. Maybe even go to San Francisco and do some work on the fucking grays, on the wells in the bay. They shouldn't be there ever. Just like fucking, there shouldn't be orcas in San Diego. I mean, it's a catastrophe. I mean, it's a catastrophe. So, stand tuning. The fight goes on.